Well, religious gatherings of no more than 50 people will be allowed under level 3 of the lockdown, as the President has now acceded to recognizing religious leaders as essential frontline workers. The President has also agreed to a national day of prayer at the end of this month. But let's unpack the story for you. We're joined now by ACDP leader Reverend Kenneth Meshoe. He joins us via our Skype line. Reverend, good morning. Thanks very much for your time. The big question here this morning, Reverend, have we undone, do we stand to undo all of the gains of the past 60-odd days of the lockdown by now allowing religious gatherings?
I don't think so. If regulations are enforced and all health protocols are observed, as we have been advised, then I cannot see how what has been achieved can be undone. Remember that not long ago, the MEC for Health in the Western Cape said that the majority of infections are taking place in shopping malls, not in churches, in shopping malls. And obviously, I'm surprised that nobody refers to that, nobody talks about that. What they're doing instead is to try and improve regulations so that people will not be infected in shopping malls. And my argument is, what is done to safeguard the lives of the people in shopping malls can also be done in schools and in churches and in all other places. We should not, as a nation, be seen to be anti-church because of a bias that is there or whatever reasons of what happened in the past in areas such as Bloemfontein and South Korea when there were no health protocols in place. That is a very important thing to observe that there were no health protocols, and as a result, people were just mingling, hugging, kissing, and whatever, because there were no health protocols. Now you have health protocols. Now people are told about social distancing, people are told about sanitizing and other important things, and if all churches and all people listen to regulations, listen to the president, I don't see what was gained, how it can be lost.
Yeah. Reverend Meshoe, you've brought up the issue around the Free State Day of Prayer. That's an event that led to you also testing positive for COVID-19. As you say, no specific health protocols were in place at the time, but there were advisories from government to not gather in large groups. Around 70 people from that gathering testing positive. It turned into what was the biggest cluster of infections in the Free State to date.
Well, obviously, I will not argue against that, because the fact is the health protocols that are in place today were not in place. I saw there was no social distancing. There were no regulations that guided people how to behave when they are in such gatherings. When people say do not be in a large gathering, large is relative. How large is large? It's relative, you know. So the most important thing that we must acknowledge is that there were no health protocols that were imposed or that were told to organizations and churches to observe. So we need to be fair and start judging what happened through the eyes of, did they disobey or not? And the fact, what I know is that they did not disobey, because I also did not know about those health protocols. The fact is they were not in place.
So, Reverend Meshoe, you've now compared the issue around churches and religious gatherings being allowed under level 3 of the lockdown. You've compared it to perhaps shopping malls also being allowed to trade. People are allowed to go shopping. But, Reverend, do you agree that the basis of the warnings from government is, as much as you can, please stay at home, stay away from other people? So the question for you, Reverend, this morning is, as religious leaders, are you willing to deal with the very real possibility of the fallout of this decision by the President? The real possibility of a massive loss of life here, because as you and I know, the people who will want to be at church, who have been missing going to church, are the very people who are most at risk. We're talking about our elderly folk, our grandparents, our mothers and fathers.
Well, I do not agree with you that people who go to church are people who are mostly at risk. I don't agree with that. There are many young people, there are many professionals who attend churches. So I do not understand the logic of saying people who go to church are people who are mostly at risk. Church is for everybody, young, old, grey, or whatever. So let us encourage people to observe the regulations. Let us encourage leaders to ensure that all protocols are observed. Because if that be the case, then we will not have the problem that people are anticipating. We will have minimal obviously infections in every place on earth. There's nowhere, whether schools, whether in public transport, people will always be exposed to a danger that exists. There is no place on earth where a person can say there will be no danger. Even people that are ordering food, staying at home, the deliveries that come, people who meet you and you tackle that, there are also possibilities of infections. So we should not be biased. We just have to emphasize the importance of everybody observing the regulations and also everybody doing as they are guided and instructed by the health department.
Now, Reverend, I think that the President has taken a long time to make this decision. One could perhaps gather from the time that he's taken to make this decision to allow religious gatherings that he was reluctant to do so, and that perhaps he has now faced some pressure from the religious sector. So could you tell us this morning, Reverend, were there ultimatums made to government to accede to this request, to this demand from the religious sector, or come election time that you would withdraw your support?
Well, I've heard people obviously who supported the ANC saying if the pastor, if the president does not accede to their request, then they will reconsider voting for him and his party or not. People have said that, and obviously they have the right to do so. Now, from my side, it is not long that I have known that in South Korea, that where the churches were open all the time, that when the infections took place, that there were no health protocols in place. So when I started raising this issue, a number of people researched, and when it was confirmed, in South Korea, infections are not increasing, but they are decreasing, then it became a challenge for South Africa. That how come a country where protocols are observed and they are not under lockdown, that their infections are going down, not increasing, including in the church? Because now they've been told how to behave, what to do, and what not to do. And yet we have a country like South Africa where that is totally, that has closed all the churches, no meeting and all, and yet the infection rates are increasing. So we need to observe that. For me, the key thing is people observing regulations. When people are ignorant, people are not told what to do and what not to do, mistakes obviously are bound to happen. At this time, because everybody knows, churches know that if you do not comply, you might be putting people at risk, and also the permit to allow you to operate might be withdrawn. Okay, now that obviously is going to make all those pastors and churches to ensure that they observe the protocols to the detail. And if they do that, I don't foresee a problem.
All right, well, thanks very much for your time this morning. The ACDP leader, Reverend Kenneth Meshoe, joining us there on the line. Come level 3 of the lockdown, religious gatherings will be allowed. The President telling us that it will only be allowed under very strict conditions. One of those conditions is that no more than 50 people will be allowed together.